Hello, thank you for joining me here on the News Summary. I am Liza Chataeva. Stay with me and learn about the main developments and events that took place in Kazakhstan in the past week. Campaigning has kicked off for Kazakhstan's now presidential election. It will last until 12 p.m. April 24th. Central Election Commission has explained the basic rules of the presidential campaigns. Taking advantage of an official position for the purpose of campaigning is prohibited for all interested and authorized persons working in civil service. Using images of people without their written consent, giving away presents and gifts for campaigning purposes are also prohibited. Campaigning is not allowed on the election day and one day prior to it. Presidential candidates may be removed from the race in cases of violations. Tatiana Klopkova, the member of the Central Election Commission, reminded the presidential candidates of the main rules of how the campaign activities must be carried out.
К этим лицам относятся
A group of people and organizations cannot be involved in propaganda activities and distribute any related materials. This category includes government agencies, local governments, and their official in the performance of their duties. If they go on vacation, they have the right to take part in the election campaign. Members of the armed forces of our country, other troops and military formations, employees of national security, law enforcement officers and judges, election officials, and religious associations have no right to agitate.
правоохранительных органов и судей, члены избирательных комиссий и религиозные объединения.
Citizens of foreign states, persons without citizenships, foreign legal entities, and international organizations cannot help or hinder the election of a candidate. The Central Election Commission is working on manufacturing the ballots and has already approved the text. The number of ballots is a little over 9,450,000 units. They will be disseminated between the regional election commissions by April 24th. Kazakhstani citizens will vote for a president on April 26th. Now let's talk about the three candidates running for presidency in the coming snap election. They are the present head of state Nursultan Nazarbayev, a nominee by the Communist People's Party Turgun Sizdikov, and self-nominated Abelgazi Kusainov. What do the three candidates promise to the voters? To learn the answer to that, watch our next story.
A large-scale campaign in support of Nursultan Nazarbayev is held in country's every village. The incumbent head of state does not participate in campaign events himself because of his busy schedule. His Republican public group works on the campaign. Astana became the center of people's activities.
Благодаря президенту Республики Казахстан.
Thanks to the President of Kazakhstan, the years of independence have passed like a century. We, under the guidance of the President, have adopted the State Program 2050. You will realize this program and propel Kazakhstan into top 30 countries in the world. Therefore, I am absolutely sure all supporters of the President, all the people of Kazakhstan will come and vote with their heart on April 26. Vote for themselves, for the future, for their children's future, for the future of our grandchildren, for the prosperity of our country, for the welfare of each family. And it can be guaranteed by only one person, Nursultan Nazarbayev. He is the leader of the nation and he's recognized worldwide. Only with the president, only with the leader of the nation, we will reach new victories. Alga, Kazakhstan. Peace, harmony, unity, and prosperity. These are the main achievements of Kazakhstan's independence. The forum participants unanimously agreed that the success of our country is inextricably associated with the name of the leader of the nation. The forum to support Nursultan Nazarbayev candidacy gathered thousands of Kazakhstanis across the country. In Pavlodar, people of all ages and professions, from students and public figures to whole groups, have given their support to the incumbent president's candidacy. In Aktau, a forum was held on the shores of the Caspian Sea. People chanted with the leader of the nation to new victories. In Almaty, staff of the locomotive depot has also joined the campaign. Success of the company is associated with the name of Nazarbayev. In general, with the beginning of the election campaign, public reception offices began to work. About 600 trustees will meet with voters to tell about the election platform. The chief of the public campaigners group, Mukhtar Kul Muhammad, held meeting first. He has noted that the activities will contribute to foster the implementation of the 5 institutional reforms and ensured that the most valuable citizens' proposals will be submitted personally to Nursultan Nazarbayev. Such 224 public reception offices set to work throughout the country. The presidential candidate from the Communist People's Party wishes to raise the quality of life of the working population. His party colleagues will help him visit all Kazakhstan's regions to hold about 40 various activities and to clarify the points of his electoral program. Today, there are 100,343 members in the ranks of the Communist People's Party of Kazakhstan. There will be meetings with the staff at the factories and accordingly with ordinary citizens in the public receptions of our party. In their election program, the Communist Party members rely on young people, and if they win, they promise to address the issues of employment. They know that everyone must have a chance at their self-realization of skills. In addition, the Communist People's Party of Kazakhstan supports the Eurasian integration, as the membership in the EAEU is of interest for the country.
Наша предвыборная программа, в двух словах можно сказать так.
What can we say about our election program? In a brief way, we have built a great nation on the ruins. We built and raised the economy almost from scratch. The economy goes first and then politics, and this is not questionable. But now I think it is necessary to add here the economy, politics, and social justice. All of you know that in our wonderful country, where there is enormous wealth, not all people live equally. We intend to address the issues of raising the quality of life of the working population.
Экономика, политика и социальная справедливость.
The theme of the working class to Sazdikov is close not only by ideological orientation of the party. He started his career as a locksmith, tractor driver, and mechanic of Chervony farm in the Kokshetau region. He joined the ranks of the Communist Party. He graduated with honors from the Higher Komsomol School in Moscow and Zelenograd Agricultural Institute with a degree as a scientist agronomist. Then he continued his work in the party. The orientation of the election platform of the third presidential candidate of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Abelgazi Kusainov, is ecology. Kazakhstan citizens should have the right to breathe in a fresh air and drink clean water. The country is developing a mining and processing industry, and for the past 5 years, the growth rate of these industries has increased, which leads to an increase of waste, including toxic waste. In his program, Kusainov offers to pay attention to these problems.
Бурный экономический рост в разных странах мира.
The rapid economic growth around the world is increasingly carried out without appropriate consideration of the natural environment opportunities and economical permissible loads on it. The irrational use of natural resources, environmental pollution by waste, the impoverishment of the gene pool and biodiversity leads to the degradation of the natural and human environment. Today, the issues of ozone depletion, water pollution of the oceans, land contamination, and soil cover the impoverishment of biological diversity as a result of human industrial activity are urgent.
Загрязнение земель и почвенного покрова, оскуднение биологического разнообразия в результате промышленной деятельности человека.
The self-nominated Abelgazi Kusainov has successfully passed the Kazakh language test and overcome the minimum threshold of voters in his support. He has collected 132,000 votes instead of the required 93,000. In his professional career, Abelgazi Kusainov tenured as a vice minister of various departments 4 times. Also 3 times he was a chairman of different committees and once headed a ministry. In 2012, he became a governor of one of the most strategic areas in the country, in the Karaganda region, but only for a year. Most of all, Abelgazi Kusainov is remembered by the residents of the region for the initiative to repair roads. However, during their reconstruction, Kusainov already headed the Federation of Trade Unions.
To ensure transparency of the elections, equal opportunities of the candidates, and protection of electorate's right to vote, Central Election Commission is cooperating with the Republican Public Commission for Election Supervision. Last week, the country's social activists met with the members of the Central Election Commission and discussed the course of the election campaign. They have also agreed to coordinate their work with the regional, district, and precinct election commissions. The chairman of the commission, Kwandzak Turgankulov, noted the importance of the agency's experience accumulated during the past elections.
Я должен подчеркнуть вот ту положительную особенность работы вашего штаба.
I must emphasize the positive features of the work of our office, which really help us conduct the election timely. We were told about facts on time and avoided massive violations.
Сказывали, и эти факты, эти нарушения не становились, так сказать, массовыми. Мы их своевременно могли, так сказать, по ним принять меры.
Сегодня мы уже составили команду по всей стране. У нас
Today we have already formed a team across the country. We will have about 10,000 observers who will be working at all polling stations, and now our main task is to train them. There are experienced people, but there are also those who need to know their rights and their responsibilities. Observers will act in accordance with the laws. There should be no conflict. Everyone shall work skillfully and clearly, starting with the campaign and finishing on the day of election.
это четко работали, начиная от агитационно-пропагандистской кампании, кончая днем выборов.
The OSCE Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights has also opened its mission to monitor the presidential election in Kazakhstan. The team of observers includes 12 experts working in Astana and 30 more people working in the regions. In addition, the OSCE will invite 400 short-term observers to work on the voting day. The task of the experts is to monitor the entire electoral process in terms of its compliance with the OSCE commitments, international standards, and the national legislation of Kazakhstan. Meetings with the representatives of the political parties and candidates, non-governmental organizations have already been scheduled. On the election day, the OSCE experts will be present at the polling stations from their opening hour till the end of the vote count.
We are not interested in the outcome of the elections, but rather that the process is transparent and conducted in line with the OSCE commitments, such as equality, fairness, impartiality, and secrecy. We will, as always, let the facts speak for themselves. And our role is to provide a technical assessment of the process.
Kazakhstan's electorate is comprised of nearly 10 million voters. The Central Election Commission staff and volunteers are working to ensure that each one of them is registered in the voters' list. Our reporters have learned about the rules and features of the upcoming election. Polling stations are under preparation as well. In the coming election, Astana will have 189 polling stations.
Banners encouraging citizens to vote are posted along with bright banners of various premieres in the capital. The list of potential visitors to the polling stations total nearly 10 million people. The commission members are working throughout Kazakhstan to ensure a high turnout on April 26.
Может позвонить любой житель города Астаны.
Any resident of Astana can call and find out where they can vote by saying their name and preferably the IIN.
И желательно ИНН.
This video is a step-by-step instruction of what to do to make sure whether there is your name on the list and what to do if there isn't. There's also an option for those who, for health reasons, cannot come to a polling station. In such cases, the staff will pay them a visit, provided these individuals call or apply to the commission according to the place of residence.
Сейчас преимущественно
Now our commission is engaged in updating the voters' list. Our polling stations are involved in equipping rooms, polling venues.
Участки заняты тем, что оборудуют избирательные комнаты, избирательные помещения.
Preparations for elections are underway. The hardest thing is voters' lists. The final thing is the installation of voting booths. Kazakhstanis will vote in the traditional way by ticking off a name on paper ballots.
The National Chamber of Entrepreneurs has launched an informational campaign ahead of the presidential election. It aims to draw the attention of the Kazakhstani citizens to the importance of voting. Stickers with the slogan, "It's important that each person votes," have been placed on the covers and wrappers of the domestic consumer products. In addition, informational calendars with the same slogan will appear in shops, cafes, and restaurants.
Для нас тоже очень крайне важно, чтобы наши граждане
For us, it is crucial that our citizens are aware of their responsibility of their future, showing their civic stance, fulfilled their constitutional duty on 26th of April, came to this election and expressed their civic responsibility. We are happy and pleased to support this initiative, and we want to encourage everyone to come to the polls because each person has to decide. Today, we are not saying who to vote for. We say that everyone should express their position.
As the Germanwings recovers the second box from the remains of the Airbus A320 in the French Alps, the world is mourning the death of 144 passengers and 6 crew members. Among those mourning are the family, friends, and colleagues of the Imankulovs who were aboard the doomed plane on March 24th. The terrible crash took the lives of a 50-year-old Yerbol Imankulov, his wife, 49-year-old Ayjan Isengalieva, and their son, 25-year-old Adil Imankulov, all from East Kazakhstan. The couple worked for Casting Copper Production Company. They left a teen daughter behind.
An empty chair, a photograph on the table, papers that still need work. Ayjan Isengalieva left for Europe for the holidays to seek medical treatment for her son. Her colleagues said goodbye only for 5 days, but they still cannot believe that their manager would never come back to the office.
Тяжело прямо, я не могу, я даже...
For me, this is hard. I cannot believe it. I cannot even I'm even lost for words to say something. I'm shocked that we were left without her. Of course, it is bad for all of us.
Что мы остались без нее, конечно, это плохо для нас всех.
Aijani Singaliva always cared for others. She was responsible for the condition of the Palace of Sports, children's camps and resorts, all those depended on her. Their son Adil was an operator of zinc production. Her husband Yerbal was the head of the new metallurgy project and was the director of smelting at the cast zinc factory. He went to Karaganda just over a year ago to raise the silicon production.
Бывало, отдыхали вместе с семьями.
We used to go on holidays together with our families. Indeed, they were optimistic people, cheerful. Yerbal always had jokes to tell or rhymes. He played on the national musical instrument Dombra. We are shocked by what happened.
Конечно, таким случаем.
Friends and relatives of the deceased family is still not clear why they took that flight. Initially, they had to return home via Frankfurt, but they changed tickets the last minute. The mother of Yerbal Imankulov and their daughter Dana, who stayed home, cannot believe in the tragic death of their loved ones. They are waiting for the news from Aijan's sister, who flew to France to identify the bodies.
An emergency situation in the Karaganda region occurred last week. Heavy rainfall caused flash floods in several villages. According to the local emergency services, nearly 100 houses were flooded, more than 300 people were evacuated. These shots were filmed in the Matak village of Karkarali district, where in just a few hours the water had literally filled the house. The situation was even worse in the Toktar village, where the water level was waist high. There were no casualties, but the locals lost livestock during the floods. Nurken village remains virtually cut off from the civilization. The exact amount of damage caused by the disaster has not been calculated yet. The rescuers and the communal service teams are working around the clock.
Now we have to pump out all the water. The house is also full of water. The situation happened for the second time. The first time we also were left without property. Water has reached right up to the waist. Furniture, appliances and carpets all were in the water. All this was bought on loans. We even have not paid them off. This is a catastrophe. As the industrial disaster has developed, we, at the moment, just cannot say how and whom we will help. A specially created commission will solve this issue. Work will be carried out strictly according to the law.
The second stage of industrialization is in progress across Kazakhstan. Nearly 400 domestic companies have already received financial aid worth 12 billion tenge in the framework of the Business Roadmap program. 74 industrial facilities have been put into operation. 10,000 new jobs have been created. This information was released at the regional meeting of Aktobe businessmen held last week. The meeting participants discussed the ways of supporting domestic producers and the construction progress of an industrial zone in Aktobe region. The chairman of the Presidium of Kazakhstan's National Chamber of Entrepreneurs, Timur Kulibayev, said protection of rights and interests of domestic businesses was the main priority for this year. According to him, factors hindering business activities must be identified and a better dialogue must be established between the government agencies and private sector to help businesses overcome administrative barriers.
Large funds for the development of entrepreneurship were allocated within the program Nurly Jol. 1 trillion tenge was provided. Our aim is to make sure that these funds reach the sector to reduce the paperwork for those sectors for which the funds were allocated. Last week, we held a meeting with the top managers of the National Bank. They promised to take measures to reduce the interest rate and, secondly, to begin to replenish the liquidity of banks.
Они обещают предпринять меры, во-первых, по снижению ставки и, во-вторых, начать пополнять ликвидность банка второго уровня.
9 regions of Kazakhstan are free from mourning. International experts came together in Astana to discuss ways of fighting against this dangerous infectious disease. The World Organization for Animal Health has opened its sub-regional office in Kazakhstan to implement a long-term strategy for control and prevention of extremely dangerous animal diseases such as mourning, brucellosis and rabies. Meeting participants noted that the application of international standards to ensure health of animals is especially important ahead of Kazakhstan's accession to the World Trade Organization.
Казахстан уже в мае месяце получит
Kazakhstan will receive certificates from our organizations at the General Session in Paris in May, confirming that 9 regions of Kazakhstan are free from mourning without vaccination. This makes it possible to export cattle meat without limitation worldwide.
Экспортировать мясо крупного рогатого скота без ограничений во всем мире.
Domestic food production is gaining momentum. Kaz beef is a trademark gaining popularity on the domestic and foreign food markets. It took 5 years of painstaking work for the meat processing company to win its clientele. However, the company managers say success would have been impossible without the state's support measures.
Angus and Hereford, about 1,500 heads, the first batch of animals Kaz beef purchased in North Dakota. The American farmers have had already many years of experience in livestock breeding and high reputation in the world market. They also helped on the first stages to train specialists.
Медициналық тексеріс, өзіміздің ветаптекамыз бар, вакцинациясын, инвентаризациясын.
All our animals have chips. Our cows undergo vaccination and inventorying in our veterinary drugstore. Their daily weight gains 3 to 4 kilograms on average. These data are automatically transferred via Bluetooth on our computer and are fixed until the normative weight would be gained. Now several thousand heads of cattle adapted to country's climatic conditions are contained at the farms reproducers of the Akmola region. The average weight of calves is up to 700 kilograms. By the way, the animals gain weight thanks to the menu compiled by Western experts. Forages are also grown here. 25,000 hectares of land are allotted for grain. The animal diet is the key to the quality of meat. Since 2015, this plant produced 120 tons of semi-finished meat. A half was sold in Russia. 200 restaurants in St. Petersburg are among the wholesale customers. Kazakhstan's marble steaks are very popular.
Этот проект очень сильно поддерживается государством.
This project is very much supported by the state, in particular by the affiliated company Kazagro. We are very glad and grateful for the trust and help. Meat production is a very long process. It is very important not to miss and not to stay without the working capital at the right time. This is very important. We have dealt with it a few times over 5 years in this business and always received full support. Recently, the Ministry of Agriculture has launched a new program to support the meat industry. Subsidies for capital expenditure to expand the farm have been increased. So in the next 5 to 10 years, Kazakhstan is going to compete with producers in North America, Kaz beef plant employees believe.
Spring conscription to the Kazakh army started on April 1st. 29,000 young people are subject to military service this year. 12,000 of them will be drafted this spring. Future servicemen are being drafted by the military units of the National Guard and Border Guard of the National Security Committee. The remaining 4,000 soldiers will join the armed forces of Kazakhstan. The enlistment and medical boards have already started work. According to the Ministry of Defense, this year 80% of the servicemen will be contracted and the rest will be drafted.
С 1 января 2015 года внесены соответствующие изменения в административный кодекс.
Amendments to the administrative code were made on January 1 this year. A penalty fee of 1,800,000 tenge as well as the criminal liability will be enforced for evading military service. But I would like to comment that despite the existing law, we don't have to use it in our case because we are law-abiding citizens and young men after receiving induction notice come and get the corresponding decision of the commission.
Послушные и все по отправке повесток в военкомат все прибывают и получают соответствующие решения президиума комиссии.
Kazakhstan prepares to mark the 70th anniversary of victory in the Great Patriotic War. The last echelon with military equipment has been delivered to Astana from Almaty. Military vehicles will be placed in one of the capital's military units until the parade starts. Military contractors and cadets of military schools have also arrived in the capital. More than 500 cars with military equipment and about 1,000 soldiers have arrived in Astana from different regions of Kazakhstan. They have been placed in a field camp where they will be trained every day before the Victory March, scheduled for May 9th. The parade dedicated to the 70th anniversary of victory in the Second World War will be one of the major events of this year.
У нас почти 12 оков стоят.
We have 12 portable ramps for detrainment. It definitely reduces the time for loading and unloading. It's a very useful thing. Everything's done without disruption. safety violations, without loss of personnel, without injury. I hope the parade will be held on a high level, and then we will send the military equipment and personnel back.
Надеюсь, также и закончится. И отправим, парад проведем, думаем, достойно, и отправим личный состав достойную технику.
These were the main news from Kazakhstan for the past week. I wish you to have a great start to the new week. Goodbye.